Starting a new school is hard under the best circumstances, but transferring to Southern Lehigh High School in Pennsylvania right before my junior year felt especially brutal. Everyone already had their friend groups locked in, inside jokes established, and routines formed. I knew no one. The worst part of the day, by far, was lunchtime. Juniors weren't allowed to leave campus, only seniors, so I was stuck eating in the cafeteria, a place I had been dreading since the moment I got my schedule. I walked in that first day carrying my tray, scanning the room for an empty table, but every single seat was taken. Sitting alone wasn't even an option. The only place that didn't feel completely intimidating was a small table in the corner where only 2 students were sitting. I took a deep breath, walked over and asked if I could join them. They exchanged a glance, then one of them nodded and said yes. Once I sat down, I noticed immediately that they were identical twins. They introduced themselves as Antonio and Bruno. They looked partially Hispanic but didn't have accents, and at first they seemed friendly enough. We talked casually, and before lunch ended, they invited me to hang out with them after school. I figured I had to start somewhere if I wanted to make friends, so I agreed. We exchanged numbers, and later that evening Bruno texted me saying they wanted to hang out around 9:00 p.m. He told me to meet them near a cemetery about 10 minutes from my house, mentioning there was a cool spot in the woods nearby. It was a Friday, we didn't have school the next day, and I had nothing better to do, so I said yes, despite the fact that meeting 2 people I barely knew near a cemetery at night should have been a red flag. As I walked toward the cemetery in the dark, doubt crept in. I thought about how new I was, how desperate I felt to fit in, and how strange this situation really was. When I arrived, Bruno texted me saying they were deeper in the woods near a small lake and sent me their location. I followed it, pushing past branches with my phone flashlight as my only source of light. I called out their names when I thought I was close, but instead of hearing them respond, I heard slow, deliberate footsteps approaching. Panic set in. I turned around, deciding to leave, but suddenly someone grabbed me from behind, their nails digging into my neck as they tried to choke me. I heard a familiar voice yelling, "Grab him." Somehow, I broke free and sprinted toward the road. I didn't stop running until I was home. The next day, with visible marks on my neck and text messages as proof, my parents and I reported everything to the school. Antonio and Bruno were expelled. I blocked their numbers and tried to move on. But about a week later, I woke up in the middle of the night freezing cold. My bedroom window was wide open. As I went to tell my parents, I noticed my bedroom door, previously open, was now partially shut. I pushed it slightly and saw someone hiding behind it. I screamed as loud as I could. My dad rushed in just in time to see a figure jumping out of my window. The police were called, but without proof, nothing could be done. Even now, I'm certain it was one or both of those twins. Nothing like that ever happened again, but the fear stayed with me for a long time. And so did the lesson about trusting the wrong people. Freshman year of high school brought its own set of strange and unsettling experiences, but one incident during gym class still stands out more clearly than most. It was late in the day, last period, and we had a substitute gym teacher because of a storm. He was an older man, probably in his late 50s, with gray hair and a presence that immediately felt off to me. When he took attendance, he paused at my name and looked me up and down a little too long. I noticed it, but I brushed it off, telling myself I was overthinking it. I had always been told I looked older than my age, and I tried to convince myself that was all it was. After attendance, he told us to break into volleyball teams, then disappeared into the hallway near the locker rooms. The class dragged on, and before we knew it, the period was over. I went into the girls' locker room to change, only to find that my locker wouldn't open. I tried my combination repeatedly, but nothing worked. Eventually, I went to the substitute and explained the situation. He told me to wait while he retrieved the list of locker combinations. When he came back, he surprised me by walking into the girls' locker room with me, even though there was still one other student inside. He tried the combination from the list several times, and each time it failed, he laughed and looked at me in a way that made me uncomfortable. I forced myself to laugh along, unsure of what else to do. Then he placed his hand on my shoulder and said we'd figure it out. As he tried again, his hand slowly moved from my shoulder to my lower back. That was the moment everything felt undeniably wrong. I stepped away, grabbed my bag, and said I needed to catch my bus. Almost immediately after I moved, the locker opened. He smiled and walked away as if nothing had happened. I waited until I heard the locker room door shut before changing as quickly as possible. Suddenly, the lights went out, plunging the room into darkness. My heart started racing. I pulled on my clothes, grabbed my backpack, and headed for the back exit, terrified he might be waiting for me. As I reached the intersection between rows of lockers, a small amount of light from a high window revealed him peeking around the corner, watching me. I ran. He chased after me, calling out that it wasn't what it looked like, but I didn't stop. I ran straight out into the rain and walked home off campus. By the time I got home, soaking wet and shaken, it dawned on me that he may have intentionally changed my locker combination to get me alone. The realization made me sick. I never told anyone, not my parents, not my friends. I was scared, embarrassed, and unsure anyone would believe me. It's something I kept to myself for years, a quiet memory that still lingers, reminding me how vulnerable I felt and how close something truly terrible might have been. One night, a few friends and I came up with what we thought was a brilliant idea at the time, sneaking into our high school through a broken basement window that had never been properly fixed. To reach it, you had to hop over a short metal gate that surrounded the outside staircase leading down to the basement. It didn't really stop anyone, but crossing it gave us that extra rush. The feeling that we were doing something forbidden. After making sure there were no security cars nearby, we climbed over the gate and struggled through the narrow window, boosting each other up until we finally squeezed inside. Once we were in, we split up to explore. The basement was exactly what you'd expect, dark, messy, and underwhelming. There was very little light, just a single dim bulb in one corner and the glow of an exit sign illuminating more than it should have. Eventually, one of my friends whispered that we should go upstairs. I followed him, and he opened a door leading into the main hallway of the school. Every light was off. The building felt completely dead, except for the red glow of exit signs stretching down the hall. I remember saying how creepy it felt, but we kept moving anyway. We stopped near a bathroom and my friend went into one of the stalls. As I waited, my phone rang. It was another friend asking where I was. I told him I was upstairs with two of the others, but he sounded confused and said they were both standing right next to him. Before I could process that, I heard laughing coming from the bathroom stall behind me, a laugh that didn't belong to anyone I knew. I looked up and saw someone peering over the top of the stall. Panic hit instantly. I ran out of the bathroom and heard the stall door slam shut behind me. In the darkness, I struggled to find my way back to the basement, but somehow I managed. I screamed my friends' names as I ran down the stairs, and when they answered, we all scrambled back out through the window as fast as we could. I was the first one out, convinced someone was chasing us. Once outside, trying to calm down, I explained everything. We laughed nervously, the kind of laughter that comes from pure adrenaline. But then one of us noticed movement in the school building. In one of the lower windows, someone was standing with their hands pressed against the glass, only half of their face visible. That was enough. We ran until we were far off school property and didn't look back. We tried to come up with explanations afterward, but none of them ever made sense. Whatever, or whoever, that was inside the school that night ensured one thing: we never tried anything like that again. Some places are empty for a reason, and some memories stick with you not because you understand them, but because you never truly do.